no hand cam today, so I should be able to juggle technology. Welcome to the pandemic. Let's try it again. Welcome to the Pandemic Pinup Happy Hour. It has been a very interesting week. For those of you out there who were able to celebrate the holidays or felt like celebrating the holidays, I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And if you just did your own thing, I hope you enjoyed that too. This is the last class of the year. There will be some changes as we move into 2021. I'm still working on what those might be, so when I know, y'all will know. But today, for our last class, I thought I would take up a small challenge that was kind of lobbed at me by two people I know, Fati and Alina. Both wanted me to make cocktails based with cream liqueurs. So I tried to do my darndest not to use any Irish liqueur because I felt like that was kind of a cop-out because I use it a lot because I like it. So we're actually making 4 cocktails today instead of 2. Let me click these lights on. Forgot that the light is going to get dim. It's late. But we'll be making 4 different cocktails, and I'm going to be really honest. Out of these 4, I love 3. One I'm still on the fence about, but I thought I would present it because it was a really interesting idea I came up with. And then if someone else takes it and makes it better, send it back to me so I can, continue to see this cocktail evolve. So 3 are really good. 1 is a cocktail in process or progress, however you want to look at it. But we'll be using a bunch of different cream liqueurs. As you can tell, they're my tiny little bottle section. Just because I don't know what I would do if I had full-size bottles of all of these things in my house. It'd be a lot of coffee, a lot of chai tea, a lot of creamy liquor. So we are going to be using Samris, which is a spiced cream liqueur that's based on Indian culture. So it has kind of a chai style flavor to it. It's got all those spices and that cream. It just kind of makes you think chai latte. We'll be using an horchata liqueur, which obviously the most common brand or most popular brand out there that I hear about all the time is horchata. So if that's what you have, use that. I'll be using Karuva. I've had them both. They're both good. They're both horchata tasting liqueurs. I'll be using a peanut butter cream, which was just kind of a personal challenge to myself. I hate peanut butter, guys. I really do. But I do like peanut butter cookies, Reese's peanut butter cups, and North African spicy peanut sauce. So I don't know. I just can't do like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or peanut butter on its own. But this peanut butter cream liqueur, because it's sweet, kind of reminds me of a peanut butter cookie. So I actually really liked it. We'll be using Tequila Rose, which is a strawberry cream liqueur with some tequila added to it. And we'll be using the dairy and gluten-free Bailey's almond milk liqueur. So for our 4 cocktails, you will need shakers all around. All of these are shaken cocktails. All of them are served up without ice. So that's just kind of going into this so you know what to look for equipment-wise, but we'll just go ahead and dig into it. The first one we're going to do is called Spice Rack, and I called it that just because it has a ton of different spices that are going into it. Some of them are very well defined. Some of them are kind of ambiguous because of the liqueurs or ingredients that we're using. So for this cocktail, we're going to be using a gingerbread syrup. The recipe for this was in the flyer that I put out earlier this week. It's got a bunch of interesting things in it. It's sorghum based. If you happen to have molasses would get it closer to a more traditional gingerbread flavor, but I just had a ton of sorghum on hand. So I chose to go with that instead, and I really enjoyed it because it's not as bitter and it's not as dark, so it's kind of a little bit more versatile. But it would be just as lovely with molasses. It also has pink peppercorn and ginger, both fresh and dried. It has allspice, it has cardamom. It's got a bunch of different little things in there. So if you need that recipe, check out the flyer on the Underground Cooking Club page. So we're going to use a 1/2 ounce of our gingerbread syrup. And I tried to make the cream liqueurs the base for most of these cocktails, but sometimes those ratios just didn't taste right. So this is one of those cocktails. So technically, the base for this cocktail is a spiced rum. I'm using Kraken. It's dark spiced rum. I think it goes really well with the gingerbread syrup notes just because they are really deep and complex. You could use a more common lighter spiced rum such as Captain Morgan or Sailor Jerry. We're going to use a whole ounce of that. Then in some sherry. We're going to add in a 1/4 ounce of Amontillado sherry. And it just has some like nutty notes, but also a little bit of citrusness to it and a little bit of like brighter flavors. So it kind of balances out our cocktail just because we don't have any citrus juices in here. So this is kind of a substitute for that. So 1/4 ounce of the sherry. And this could also very easily be doubled. I make these cocktails kind of small for the most part, just because they're richer, heavier, they have that cream liqueur. So I would like y'all to consider these as little like nips or little dessert cocktails to where have more than one, but start with one instead of doubling it up just in case it's a little too heavy for you. And then our creamy star for this is going to be the Somras Indian Spiced Cream Liqueur. We're going to use a 3/4 ounce of that. And then I'm going to use some Angostura bitters. And that's just going to be 1 dash. Nothing crazy. Adding that in there. And we're going to shake it up and then pour it in a glass. So we're going to put some ice in here. And I'm going to shake this for about 15 to 20 seconds. So I have a small little cocktail glass here. It's kind of like a rocks glass. I think it's actually a candle holder, if I'm going to be completely honest. Sometimes I forget where I get my glassware from. Now I will say this particular cocktail, as you can tell, I'm not double straining it or even using my Hawthorne strainer, which is a cocktail strainer, to strain this. There are some cocktails that I just really enjoy when they have ice chips in them. I don't know if that's just like a personal thing, if there's other people out there like me. I love ice chips. So this particular one, I like the ice chips because they act kind of like when you see drops of a sauce or a balsamic reduction on a dinner plate where you're eating and then you're supposed to drag your next bite through that to kind of cleanse your palate or waken it back up and then go back in for the experience. So I found that when I was drinking this cocktail, while it was really tasty, after a few sips, it just kind of, there's so much going on with the spices that it just kind of, you kind of go like palate numb, like just, it's just like, oh, you're drinking a cream cocktail, end of story. So with the little ice chips, I would find myself kind of just sucking on them for a while until they dissolved. And then I go back to the cocktail and it was just like, ooh, this is a really tasty cocktail. So I would either serve it with ice chips or a little snack on the side, probably like some salted almonds. But I digress. I'm going to just garnish this with a cinnamon stick that's going to get lost in here because all of my cinnamon sticks are like pinky size now. But guys, that is the spice rack and it's really tasty. It smells like a combination of chai tea, garam masala, and some kind of latte beverage. Because you can definitely smell like all this cream, but we didn't actually put any like cream in here other than the liqueur, which is really nice. So I did try to strive for that. I tried to strive not to use any actual dairy in most of these cocktails, just so that any of the textural elements we're getting are from the creamy liqueurs. It's spice rack. So moving on, we'll go into my cocktail in progress. And that one is what I call the Thornless Rose. Now, the concept that I had for this was I thought about making an almond rose orgeat. That was the entire thought process. First, it was going to be like a salted almond rose syrup, and I tried doing that a couple different ways with infusing rose petals, with using rose water, with using non-salted almonds, and then salt, adding salted almonds and no salt. None of them came out in the way that I was happy with. They were all kind of just like a little strange. Not a bad way, but just like not in the way that you want to continue to consume them. But then I made an almond orgeat and it was really nice. I think it had to do with the textural elements because it's kind of blended, so it's a little creamier. And then I left out the whole salt idea. So it's just rose almond orgeat, and that's what I have here. And then I wanted to create this cocktail to be as close to vegan or gluten-free as possible. So I am going to be using white rum. I know that's not necessarily vegan. I think that kind of depends. I'm not a huge person in the know about vegan stuff, but rum for the most part. I have found a lot of gluten-free rums out there. So if you don't have those, or if you do want to go vegan or gluten-free, please reach out to me and let me know what spirits you're using so I can absolutely adapt this recipe, because that was kind of my goal. I'm not sure I actually hit that goal, but it's a very interesting cocktail, I will say that. So for this one, we're going to use 1.25 ounces of white rum, and I'm using Plantation 3 Stars, and it says Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad. So that's kind of where the flavor profile of this rum is coming from, which means it has flavor. There is this mistaken belief that silver spirits are just kind of flat, boring, and flavorless. Not true. There are some that is the case, and there are plenty of silver rums that are just very kind of bland, and that's kind of their goal. That's not what I'm using for this. You could use an agricole rum and get some really interesting notes from this cocktail, or you could go the bland route to really highlight more of the rose and the almond. But I think this rum was a really nice fit, so I decided to use it, and I'm going to use 1.25 ounces of this rum. And then for our citrus juice, I went ahead and blended my lime and lemon together, but the ratios for the cocktail are 1/4 ounce of lemon and 1/4 ounce of lime. I was playing around with this, so I had a blend ready. So I'm using 1/2 ounce, but in theory it's a half, or it's 1/4 and 1/4 of lime and lemon. So I'm using 1/2 ounce of my blend, putting that in there. And then 3/4 ounce of my rose orgeat. The recipe for that is also on the flyer. Now, this in and of itself was really, really nice. I would make this again. I think the issue is finding the absolute perfect balance for it, which admittedly, I don't know if this cocktail is that perfect balance, but it is good. So I put that in there. And then we're going to use the Bailey's almond milk liqueur. And I'm going to use 1.5 ounces of that. And pour that right into my cocktail shaker. So once we have all of that, we're also going to ice up and then shake this cocktail. And now this is one I would also shake for about 10 to 15 to 20. Just kind of depends. If you shake it a little longer, then the flavors are a little more subtle and take some time to come out, just because you have diluted and really rounded out those flavors. Whereas if you shake for a little less, then they're going to be a little bit more aggressive in the beginning. So it's kind of a personal preference. I want to shoot for the middle, so about 15. Now, when I originally tried to do this cocktail, I was going to make it with gin, and it just didn't work out the way I thought it would. So I think I want to revisit this with gin. I really want to make it work with gin, but rum seemed to work really, really nicely. So yeah, if you have gin, try this with gin. Let me know what you think, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to strain this into my cocktail glass. I have this pretty little coupe. And it almost looks like a Brandy Alexander in style. And then I'm going to garnish this with some loose rose petals. And that is the Thornless Rose. I'll bring it over so you guys can see these really pretty rose petals on top. The contrast of colors is so pretty. Yeah, see how nice that is? The Thornless Rose. And like I said, make it, try it. It's good, but I think it still needs work. Which makes me excited. I love revisiting cocktails. It tastes creamy, you can get the almond. It is very floral, but not in an unappealing way. Sometimes floral cocktails just kind of reek of perfume and make you feel like you're drinking a perfume bottle. This doesn't do that. It feels more rose garden than it does rose perfume. But it's very nice. So next, we're going to do the Please May I Have S'more cocktail, which I'm excited about. And this one combines a bunch of different creamy liqueurs, or maybe two, I think it is. It's not a bunch. I'm overreacting. But yeah, I wanted to make something that tasted like a s'more. That was my entire goal, to be very, very honest. So we're going to use a 1/2 ounce of the peanut butter cream. And then the other cream liqueur I'll be using is the horchata liqueur. And that's going to be a 1/4 ounce. And if you're into creamy liqueurs, when I went shopping to come up with ideas, there are so many of these on the market. It is unreal. There's so many different flavors nowadays. So yeah, you can totally experiment a ton. We're going to use a 1/4 ounce of creme de cacao. This has a lot of ingredients in it, just so you know. And this is definitely a dessert cocktail. We're going to use a 1/4 ounce of amaretto. And then, just so that it wasn't cloying, which is like too sweet to where after a couple sips you're just kind of over it, I'm going to put in a little bit of whiskey to help kind of level those flavors out just a little bit. Oh, where's my whiskey? Got it. I'm going to use a 1/2 ounce of whiskey. I'm going to put that in there. And that just made it so that you can drink more of these before you get sick, because I actually garnished this with a whole s'more. So making sure you guys can get through the entire cocktail. And we're going to add 1 dash of Angostura bitters. So put that in there. And then we're going to ice this bad boy. And shake it. So this one's about a 10-second shake. And I always say seconds, but I'm never actually counting. I just shake it until it feels right, which is probably very unprofessional of me. All right, I'm going to strain this into this really pretty coupe. And now I know this coupe looks massive compared to the cocktail size, and it is, and that is because I like to dunk the cookie into, or the s'more part of my garnish into my cocktail. You could totally serve this in something different. So for my s'more, I have this like ginger cookie. They're the ones they serve on airlines, specifically American Airlines. They're called Lotus. It's not a gingerbread cookie, it's just a ginger cookie. And then I have a Ghirardelli chocolate square. Put that on there. And I have a little marshmallow. I'm gonna put that on there. Hopefully, actually I'm gonna melt this a little bit before I put it on there. Hopefully, this bad boy will not fall into my drink before I'm ready for it to. Alright. See if I can get that to stick to my chocolate a little bit. There we go. Alright. Then I'm gonna make a s'more, guys. Yeah. Now I'm not putting a top cookie on this s'more. Thought it would be a little much. But you do you. This is also a full-size marshmallow, not a baby marshmallow. So if you're more into baby marshmallows, do that. And I like it kind of smushed. So I'm going to get it all toasty and then smush it down just a little bit. All right. S'mores. Yes. Oh my gosh. So gooey and delicious. I already knew this because this is for me. It's delicious. But yeah, guys, that is please may I have s'more. The cocktail and the s'more, because I'm not going to make y'all choose. But that goes over here for my drinking pleasure here in a little bit. And actually, my favorite cocktail is the one I left for last. I made this thinking it was going to be like, okay. And then I was like, I could drink these all day and then make myself sick. So this cocktail is called the Strawberry Snatcher. And for this cocktail, I'll be using 2 ounces of coconut milk. So 2 full ounces of that. Now this cocktail, if you want it to be creamier, you can do this where you open your can of coconut milk and don't stir it together. So you're just using the heavier part of the cream that rises to the top. I kind of do half and half if you want. Add a little extra of the cream and then pour it, like mix it together and pour it on top. But yeah, so we're using 2 ounces of that, and then 1.5 ounces of the rose tequila, which is this whole little shooter. Yay. Put that whole sucker in there. And then I'm going to add in 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. And that's just because I'm using unsweetened coconut milk. I'm not using coconut cream, guys, coconut milk. So 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. And then I'm going to use 1/4 ounce of pomegranate juice. Pour that in there. And then 2 dashes or 2 drops of orange bitters. And then we're going to shake it up like we've done with the 3 previous cocktails. It's all shakes today. All right, and this one's about 10 to 15. Alrighty. And I just couldn't help myself when I drank this, and when I looked at it, it just kind of looked like strawberry milk to me. So I'm putting it in this cute little milk bottle because I'm extra like that. And I'm double straining it so that it's really nice and creamy. And I'm actually not garnishing this. I'm just going to be serving it with a straw, but if you wanted to, you could put this in a coupe. You could put strawberries on it. You could put a rose because there's rose in the name of the tequila. You could do an orange peel. You could do a lot of things. I did try this with an expressed orange peel on top, and it was really nice, but not entirely necessary to where I would make it a part of the recipe. All right. That over to the side. 4 cocktail shakers is a lot on this little table. But that, guys, is the Strawberry Snatcher. And it is oh so tasty. Which whiskey was I using? The whiskey I was using for the s'more cocktail was Bardstown whiskey. You can use any whiskey. I was using Bardstown because I had it. Preferably bourbon. Don't use rye. Or you could. I don't know. That would probably actually be really good. But this is the Strawberry Snatcher. It has no whiskey. It has the strawberry cream tequila. It tastes like I want to swim in it. It is so delicious that I'm probably going to end up buying on the regular this rose tequila stuff. But that is all I have for you guys. That ends our pandemic hour. It ends our year. And I'm really excited, really glad that y'all have tuned in to my absolute insanity this long. Tequila Rose is yummy. It is so good. It is so good on its own. I didn't really think about ever putting it into a cocktail because it's just tasty on its own. And now I can't think of drinking it on its own because this cocktail is really good. But thank you for tuning in, both here on YouTube, on Facebook, on the Underground Cooking Club page. I'm going to try and get my life together and consolidate some of these virtual things. And thank you for supporting me in any way that you've done that, whether that's through tips or just virtually showing up or commenting nonsense on my videos. But I have very much enjoyed having y'all here, and I look forward to coming up with more craziness that y'all will hopefully want to watch in 2021. But if you are watching on the Facebook stream, which later goes to the YouTube, I'll be turning it off in a very sad goodbye. I'm probably going to be taking about a month or most of the month of January to figure it out. So we might be without these classes for a while. But the hotline is always open. Please feel free to reach out. Happy New Year. And let's all hope that 2021 is less crazy. So cheers. I'll see y'all later.